The third DLC has been incredible so far, and we just received our first major patch after its release. Let's not waste any time. For performance and crashes, fix an issue where using Bulwark and a shield could potentially crash the game, an issue where players could crash while using their inventory, which has happened to me, so thank God, and fix an issue where players could potentially crash when joining a game for the World Stone. I have probably crashed over a dozen times when teleporting with the World Stone, so I really hope that even for solo players, this is the case. For Prisms, they lowered the minimum Prism cleanse level from 51 to 10. So obviously the biggest complaint with the Prisms is not only the grind, which guys, it's meant to be a grind, grow up, but the fact that you had to get all the way to level 51 just to reset back to level 0. So the fact that we can do it at level 10 is great because it's super easy to get to level 10. The devs state that we have more adjustments coming for the Prism system, including the ability to cleanse only the legendary fragment, as well as some balance changes. These changes will be included in a future patch. I can imagine them using Simulacrum as a currency to reroll the legendary fragment, because of course you are only presented 3 options out of the 40. For Boss Rush, fix an issue where clients would see the defeated message and not receive XP for Boss Rush. This was mostly in multiplayer, I haven't seen this in solo, but I can imagine spending 2 hours and having it be all for nothing would be annoying as shit. They also readjusted the overall health scaling of enemies in Boss Rush, so the devs state here that this should see bosses be slightly more challenging early on and less challenging at the end of a long run, especially Gauntlet. If you get like Deuce at 18, it can often be a run ender because of the DPS check. I also had Alexis Torre at 18 today, and he must have had like 3 bajillion health. They've also increased the XP gain of Veteran, Nightmare, and Apocalypse difficulty in Boss Rush, so instead of 5, 10, and 15%, it is now 10, 25, and 50%. So now it's actually worth playing. If you're looking to strictly farm, I imagine running Survivor is still the best way to do it because, I mean, Apocalypse usually takes about 2 hours and Survivor usually takes about 40 minutes if you're doing it right. But at least Apocalypse gets a nice boost, and a much needed one at that. They also fixed an issue where Scholar, Sagestone, and Mudtooth Elixir were not affecting XP gain in Boss Rush. Of course that was bugged. That's tough. That's so tough. They've also increased the Relic Dust drop in Boss Rush. They also fixed an issue where it was still possible to receive items that players had already possessed as Boss Rush mode awards. The devs state that the chance was previously very low, but they removed the potential completely. They also fixed an issue where Vortex could potentially pull bosses, player summons, and Very Good Boy in Boss Rush. I kinda liked that about Vortex, so that's a shame, but whatever. For Miscellaneous, they fixed an issue where players could get into a state where Dwayne would not complete the numbing agent recipe, which, I mean, doesn't he do that for like every single concoction anyway? The devs stated that Dwayne was just trying to keep that delicious recipe to himself. Awesome. They fixed an issue where it was possible to not receive the alloy extractor from Spark when accepting her quest. The devs stated they should also fix an issue where it was possible to refuse to accept her quest the first time, but then some players were unable to try to acquire it later. Fix an issue where players were unable to load a profile with DLC3 content after removing entitlements to the DLC, so now instead the players will be sent back to Ward 13 and their DLC3 items will be unequipped. Huge. They also fixed an issue where some players could not get sword reward from Ava McCabe if they changed their system clock or played Boss Rush mode after giving black metal bars to McCabe, which is obviously good because the Gut Sword is awesome. Moving on to the Archetypes. For Warden, they fixed an issue where the Warden trait barrier was not unlocking account-wide at level 10, so essentially if you weren't using Warden, you could not have the barrier trait. For Engineer, they fixed an issue where the Vulcan cannon was not allowing wind-up when dodging, they fixed an issue where Overclock wasn't resetting at the World Stone, and they fixed an issue where Heavy Weapon Vulcan was firing shots at a slow constant rate, dealing less DPS per second. For Arkan, slight nerf to Arkan, I mean I don't know how much, but reduced Havoc Form Lightning Hands damage, and reduced Lightning Dash AoE damage. The devs state that Havoc Form was doing too much damage all around, often handily beating any other builds by a large margin. This is true. These changes are designed to bring it more in line with other builds. We will keep an eye on it and make additional adjustments where necessary. I think that's totally fine. Remember guys, there's guns in the game. Oh my, thank God. For Invoker and obviously Ritualist, they reverted the line of sight change on Way of Keula, Miasma, and Eruption. So the devs state that while this behavior can still cause certain unintended issues, the addition of the LOS check had too much of an impact on the fun factor of these skills. I couldn't agree more. If there was like a single pull in the way, they just wouldn't work and it sucked. We will look to address any balance issues that pop up from this change in a future patch. I mean, if anything, they should just take the damage down a notch if they're too powerful, but the line of sight issues were too great. For gear and items, fix an issue where mod generation was not working correctly. They fixed an issue where monorail wind-up and charge was not increasing damage properly. Finally, I can use it now. Fix an issue where Genesis Bow is scaling incorrectly. Okay, so I mean, I've seen Genesis Bow doing a shit ton of damage, so let me read the dev note here. It now uses boss scaling, but damage was reduced so that at max level, the primary fire still does the same damage as before, from 75 times 2 to 50 times 3. Okay, so it's still going to do the same crazy damage. Awesome. Reduced Mega Drive damage scaling on returning bolts, so it still received a slight nerf, whatever. Fixed an issue where Void Light was not functioning properly with certain projectiles. Fixed an issue where Void Light was not correctly accumulating with certain damage types. And this is the new weapon mod that you get from the dual boss fight. It looks pretty cool, but I haven't messed around with it too much. They also fixed an issue with Black Greatsword basic attacks counting as charge attacks. Oh, Jesus. The devs know that this also will allow the Weapon Lord Mutator to properly function with the sword. For Trinkets, Mutators, and Relics, fixed an issue where the same character affixes were able to be applied more than once. Increased Hardcore Metal Band max stacks from 2 to 3 as intended in the last patch. They updated the text on Dull Steel Ring to better represent the effect. They fixed an issue that was enabling Burden of the Mason to grant full benefits from 0 Hour and Gold Signet, while at medium armor weight encumbrance. And they fixed an issue that allowed Hypercharger to benefit all melee damage instead of charge only. For enemies, fixed an issue where Sentinel drones would sometimes get stuck in cliffs in DLC3. I hope that goes for the new guys that kind of walk on air as well, because I see it happen all the time. Also in Boss Rush, I've had a ghost skeleton get stuck underneath the map, and pretty much rendering my playthrough done. So I really hope that's fixed as a result. The UI. Fixed an issue where the number of shrines activated was displaying a 0 in Boss Rush and detailed info panel. Fixed an issue where the screen would go black in spectator mode when observed player used yellow door. Fixed an issue where Brabus had visible markup language in one of his lines. Fixed an issue where the ritualist skill Death Wish was not displaying properly on the tooltip. And fixed an issue where Warden's archetype on the character selection screen was not displaying descriptive text. Moving on to the final miscellaneous fixes. They fixed an issue where navigation was sometimes broken the first time loading into DLC3 in campaign. They fixed an issue where players could vault out of the world in gas chamber level. That's pretty neat. Fixed an issue where the simulacrum was not spawning correctly in the third DLC. Fixed an issue with the audio on the Warden drone summon. Thank God, that thing was beeping like a motherfucker. Fixed an issue where clients could see outside of the world when falling out of the map in the cargo belt section of DLC3. Fixed an issue where players would spawn too close into Shahala's fight in Boss Rush, causing one player to get kicked out. Bugs are so weird, man. Fixed an issue where players could reacquire the black metal bars from Brabus if previous ones were turned into Ava, but the sword was not yet collected. Fixed an issue where players could return to Destroyed Nerud after defeating Shahala by way of the DLC3 dungeon. That's interesting. Fixed an issue where sometimes Mudtooth's DLC1 dialogue would continue to trigger even after completing it. Fixed various locations where players could glide out of the world in DLC3. I didn't test that out enough, I wish I broke it before. And fixed various issues with textures and environment. So overall, wow. So overall, we got some great changes and fixes here, especially with the line of sight issues, as well as boss rush balancing. I'm definitely looking forward to being able to reroll legendary effects on Prisms, but it's not like I'm in a rush to get it since I'm still trying to max out the first one. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Make sure to like and subscribe to stay up to date with all things Remnant. Thanks for watching.